You've probably swatted one away without a second thought. A small buzzing insect, annoying, forgettable. But what if that insect was chosen by name in a book revealed over 1,400 years ago? Not mentioned once, not in passing, an entire chapter named after it. Surah An-Nahl, the chapter of the bee. And when scientists finally understood what this small creature was actually doing, they didn't just find it interesting. They went quiet. Before we go further, if you're new here, this channel exists for moments exactly like this one, where ancient revelation and modern discovery meet. Tap subscribe now so you don't miss what comes next, and let's keep going. Because what you're about to hear isn't a coincidence people made up to sound impressive. It's written, preserved, word for word, for over 14 centuries. Let's go back to the beginning. In the 7th century, in the deserts of Arabia, there was no microscope, no understanding of biology as we know it, no concept of instinct, hormones, or hive communication. People saw a small flying insect. They saw honey. That was the extent of it. And yet, in Surah An-Nahl, verses 68 and 69, something remarkable is said. Allah reveals to the bee. The word used is Wahi, the same root used for divine revelation, to take dwellings among the mountains, in the trees, and in what humans construct. Then to eat from the fruits and follow the ways of its Lord, made easy for it. From its belly comes a drink of varying colors, in which there is healing for people. Read that again. A drink of varying colors. Healing for people. At the time, honey was just honey, sweet, useful, nothing more. But notice what the verse does not say. It doesn't say the bee simply exists. It says the bee is guided, instructed, directed by something beyond itself to build, to travel, to produce. That word, Wahi, is not used loosely in the Quran. It's the same term used when instruction is sent to a prophet. So why would it be used here for an insect? Centuries later, biologists would discover something that reframes this completely. Bees do not learn beekeeping. No bee attends a class on hive architecture. No bee is taught the exact hexagonal geometry that uses the least wax to hold the most honey with the greatest structural strength. They just know. It's called instinct. But instinct is simply a word we use to describe knowledge that arrives without being taught. The bee is guided, and the biology gets stranger. A single worker bee may visit thousands of flowers in one day, communicating distance and direction back to the hive through a precise choreographed dance. What scientists now call the Waggle dance. Discovered and decoded only in the 20th century by Carl von Frisch, who won a Nobel Prize for figuring out what the Quran had already described as guided behavior 14 centuries earlier. Not language, not learning, guidance made easy for it, exactly as the verse describes. Then there's the honey itself. Modern research has confirmed antibacterial and wound healing properties in raw honey, effective enough that it's used in some hospitals today for burns and chronic wounds that resist standard treatment. Its natural acidity, low moisture content, and hydrogen peroxide production create an environment hostile to many bacteria. A drink of varying colors in which there is healing for people. Not because someone in the 7th century ran a laboratory test, because it was already known by the one who created the bee. There's a hadith preserved by Imam Bukhari that adds another layer to this. A man came to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and said his brother had stomach pain. The Prophet, peace be upon him, told him, give him honey. The man returned twice more, saying it hadn't worked. Each time the Prophet, peace be upon him, repeated the same instruction. Give him honey. On the third attempt, the man's brother recovered. The scholar Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah later wrote extensively about this in his medical works, noting that honey's effectiveness often depends on dosage and the specific ailment. An early acknowledgement that medicine is not one size fits all. Centuries before that idea became standard in modern practice. But step back from the honey for a moment. Step back from the biology, because the real weight of this chapter isn't really about an insect. It's about what the insect represents. A creature with no visible intelligence, no schooling, no memory passed down through books, building with mathematical precision, communicating with exact choreography, producing something that heels. If a bee can be guided this precisely without ever knowing why, what does that say about you? You were given something the bee was never given. A mind that questions, a heart that reflects, a will that chooses. The Quran doesn't mention the bee to make you marvel at an insect. It mentions the bee to make you ask what you're doing with everything you were given that the bee wasn't. The scholar Ibn Kathir, in his commentary on this surah, notes that Allah placing revelation language onto the bee's instinct is a sign for people who reflect, a phrase repeated throughout the chapter almost like a refrain. Not people who simply hear, people who reflect. There's a pattern in nature that keeps showing up in the Quran this way. Not vague poetry, specific checkable detail, embryonic stages, mountain roots, the barrier between two seas. And here, the guided precision of an insect most people never think twice about. Each one small, each one easy to overlook, each one, when examined closely, harder to explain away as coincidence. You started this video thinking about an insect you'd normally ignore, but it was never really about the bee. It was about a book that named a chapter after something this small, described its behavior with startling accuracy, and asked you, if you're paying attention, to reflect. The next time you see a bee, you probably won't swat it away without a second thought. You'll remember it was guided, and you might start asking what's guiding you.